everybody. So there are a fair number of you who haven't actually been to an investor forum session for us before, so I'll give you a little bit of context. Our investor forum is something that we run quarterly. It's usually about 35 to 40 VCs and CVCs. So a CVC is a corporate venture capital, so you'll meet Singtel Innovation and Intel Capital on our panel today. And what we do as a group is we look at those earlier stage telecom and wireless startups who are looking for funding before they can look for the carrier deal. So it's a little bit earlier stage. Later on after our break, we'll see that later stage group, which is pitching to our carrier members. So the investor forum is something where we look at about 100, 150 companies per year. So what we're seeing here is a little mini version of that. And it's always off the record and closed to the public. So this is also a little bit different for us. And this format is, we'll have about 5 of our VCs and CVCs sitting here. They'll listen to a 5-minute pitch from the startups. If the startups succeed in getting their message across in under 5 minutes, they'll be rewarded with some questions, some Q&A from our investors. And then they'll go right off the stage and hope that one of our investors gives them a call, or one of our carriers or VCs in the room gives them a call after the fact. So part of their job is to put their contact information on their slide deck, for example. And then all of these slide decks are available to members in the member library. So if you missed one of our investor forums and you were really interested in that IoT startup, you can always pull down the deck from the library. So that's a little bit of context. And with that, I'd like to invite up our investor forum panel. Can I have Mark from Telstra, Yoshiaki from SoftBank, come on up. We've got John from Nokia Growth Partners over here. Mark, sorry. Christine from Intel Capital, and Punit from Singtel Innovate. So like I said, this is a representation of what our investor forum normally looks like. It's usually 35 or 40 investors. And with that, we'll set our clock to 5 minutes. I'll invite up our first startup presentation from Tarana Wireless, Stephen Glapa.
All right, hey, wait a second. I've got 8 seconds gone already. I just shut up. Thanks everybody for taking the time to listen to 4 minutes and 45 seconds. I'm living proof that there is still room for innovation in the kind of boring infrastructure that we all use in telecom. Everybody wants more bandwidth, right? Well, turns out that getting more bandwidth at a reasonable cost is still a difficult thing to do. And thanks to Moore's Law, there's actually some new things you can do about that. So without further ado, let's see, where are my slides? I guess I'm not doing slides yet. Anyway, slides have lots of words on them. Eventually I'll want to use a couple of pictures. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we make gear. We make wireless transport gear, and it's specifically for non-line of sight. So everybody wants more bandwidth. Everybody would love to have fiber, but if fiber's not already there, typically it's kind of expensive to put it there. People are realizing that Moore's Law isn't really helping the trench digging business. So what we found is that if you want to do a wireless alternative to that, most of the sites that you want to reach are non-line of sight. Everybody's familiar with kind of taking microwave and miniaturizing that and going point to point with a great line of sight connection. That's about 25% of the opportunities. The problem in the industry is that these non-line of sight connections are difficult to do if you don't put a lot of smarts in the radio. So I mentioned Moore's Law. What Tarana is about in very short form is taking massive processing power that's now economically feasible to put in a radio. Lots of radios, lots of antennas, and a bunch of guys that have been doing this for about 35 years, the smart antenna thing, plus some young snots from the likes of Berkeley and Stanford that have been doing the research in this that's at the cutting edge. You put all that together and you get truly breathtaking performance in non-line of sight. So that's kind of our story, and we've got a lot of interesting things to offer in terms of evidence that there really is a new set of economics, a new set of possibilities out there. So as I said, the industry has tried non-line of sight for a while now, and this looks like a marketing slide for Tarana, which I have to admit it sort of is, but it's actually built on data from trials over the last year and a half or so. as a number of operators have been gearing up to do small cells. Like I said, about 3/4 of the places where they want to put those, they're not going to be able to do line of sight. So this not line of sight thing is really important. But what they found with what we call charitably the nominal non-line of sight solutions that don't really have many smarts in the box is they don't work very well. If you look at the chart on the left, we peg 100% as the success you'll have if you have a pure, direct line of sight connection with no interference, no other links to worry about. It's all bliss. And what happens when you take these kind of not so smart solutions out into the real world of buildings and obstructions and so forth is they rapidly lose that 100% and they get down into the teens of percent if you look at the kind of scenarios that people are actually interested in deploying. Because of all the smarts we have, we don't worry about that. We can deliver 100% reliable, rock-solid bandwidth in crazy situations like Manhattan, where we've gone 2 or 3 miles with 18 buildings in between, and we're just fine. The other dimensions where we excel because of the smarts are adaptability and co-channel use, so you get a lot of spectral efficiency out of this. And the key thing is, and watching the time, we got to get to the other 2 points that I wanted to leave with you. As I said, there are fundamentally different economics for wireless solutions when you have this kind of performance. And we're working with a number of carriers, I'll show you the map in a second, to leverage this in doing new forms of residential broadband access, for example. Even one of those players that's been very excited about fiber until they found out how expensive it was, and then they thought, well, maybe we can mix a little wireless in there to make the economics a lot better. And we've got a lot of math behind this. Share that in a separate conversation. We've got a demo table outside. I'd be happy to dig into that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we do have a lot of really interesting carrier engagement on the basis of this technology, but we'd love to have more. So, trying to think if there's anything else. I've got 27 seconds. That's pretty much the story. So, I think we're good for questions.
Are you selling direct to the carriers, or is this a channel play?
Like many small companies, we work with the carriers directly to get into the technology trial process, and those carriers are, in most cases, introducing us to a big brother that they'd like us to work with for fulfillment and getting things in the country and so forth. So it's a kind of mix of both.
I think this market is a very busy market. What is a strong differentiation from other competitors?
Can I go back a slide or two? My back isn't working. We obliterate them in technology trials. Because they market that they can do non-line of sight effectively, we actually can. And we've had carriers validate that over and over again. So it's really delivering the kind of performance people need in that application in the real world, despite the fact that it's really hard. We have more smarts than everybody else in the box. The guys are smart too, but it's what's in the box that matters.
Great, nicely done, Stephen. Succinct and excellent presentation. Thank you very much to Tarana.
Thanks.
All right, moving on. If we can have our presenter, Andy Began from Shared Spectrum Company.
Good morning. Very excited to be here, representing Washington, D.C. with my tie today.